Hey everybody, we are back working on the command center and found out this is actually an ATI Radeon card. So got this all cleaned up. Now we're just going to clean up the cooling fan assembly, which is pretty well caked but should come out just fine. And then we can get reassembling this machine in case. Alright, so we have the graphics card all cleaned up. Nice and shiny. Got most of the visceral dust off of there, as much as we possibly could. Fresh thermal paste, and got it all remounted. So we've got a hard drive. I'm not sure if this one's bootable or not, but it is a SATA drive that we can use to test the system out. Now back to memory. We've got these two slim sticks. They are, I believe they're 1 gig a piece, or perhaps they're 2. I believe they're 2 gigs, and we've got 2 4 gig sticks. So we're going to stick with the 4 gigs for sure. But I do have, from the recycler, some G-Skill Performance 2 gig sticks. So I think we're going to try these out. I just want to see if they work. I like them a little bit better than the low profile ones, but ultimately just to test these. And then what we had installed in the system was an Athlon dual core 64. It's an 05 chip. Now I have a couple of newer processors. How much newer? Not a lot. But I've got a Phenom from 06. And I've also got a Sempron here. This one is also from 05. And I believe I've got another Athlon 64X2 as well. So I've got a couple of options. My primary concern is, like, this, again, wouldn't turn on. So I've got this Athlon that was in the system. I don't know if this chip is any good. So I'm curious to see if this one even works, but if not, we've got another Athlon 64X2 that we could just swap in there. I believe the Sempron and the Phenom will fit in the AM2 slot, and then I've got a couple of other AMD machines later on. If I decide not to keep them, of course, we could always pirate some of the stuff out of there. But let's move on to reassembly. Okay, so first things first, we're going to install the motherboard here. Get some of this cabling moved back out of the way just for ease of installation. The nice thing is the standoffs in here were pretty well placed, so everything should go in real easy. Kind of takes the guesswork out when, well, honestly, you've installed this before. But I think everything should go in real smooth. And of course the hope is that once everything is in here, we can just push this off to the side there. Hopefully we can get this machine up and running. Now again, the hard drive I've selected, I don't know if there's anything on it. It's really just a stand-in, unless there's a good bootable copy of Windows on it. Even if there is a good bootable copy of Windows, I'm not sure which version we may be dealing with. So that we'll just have to kind of play a little bit by ear, which is totally fine. Change out my screwdriver bit. That one was a little small. I would recommend, if you're doing stuff like this, to get one of these screw toolkits for electronics. Now they're magnetic tips, so you do have to be a little bit careful with them. I'll just prep this for memory right now on here. Most of the time you're not touching anything too critical, so it's not a huge deal if you tap something with it, but if you end up tapping a stick of RAM, as we've seen before on the channel, it will roach the RAM, and hopefully you're not relying on that one stick. And hopefully it's not something super vintage that will be very difficult to replace. that's been my frustration, is that I find these systems and then they have a memory fault, and then come to find out I can't find any replacement RAM. I have some older stuff, PC100, SD RAM, you know, as a stockpile, but I don't have everything I would need to restore some of these machines. And some of them, like the IBMs, have like a proprietary RAM from way back in the day that can be very irritating to try and replace. Likewise, you know, clock batteries. Definitely just keep a stockpile of watch batteries. Luckily, they're very inexpensive, and for the most part, you can find them even at grocery stores. You can find them, and you know, Amazon, of course, sells everything, so you can usually find that stuff pretty easy. But if you get back into the really old stuff, like one of the machines I have, I forget which one, it's got a Dallas clock battery, which you can still order. I think Mauser even sells them, but they're kind of expensive to just buy one, and anytime you're buying one electronic, typically Mauser's going to want, you know, $8 worth of shipping, so it really doesn't make sense unless you're buying, you know, a bulk load of whatever you need from Mauser. So, all right, I want to hook up the switch. Now, the one thing I really liked about older motherboards, which some of them now have this same configuration, but some of them don't, is they were color-coded. I am not an electronics expert, as I'm sure many of you may have noticed just by watching the channel, and you know, for my purposes, I just kind of plug and play where colors go as best I can. And these are a little dusty. I probably should have wiped them down, but that's okay. Again, not critical to system operation, but the biggest thing is you want to match, you know, positive to positive, negative to negative, and usually the board says on it, okay, so positive is going to go this way, just to make sure you're not, you know, crossing or reversing your polarities. That way, when you get to it, you're not frying anything, and or everything should work. Again, for me, not being an electronics expert, virtually zero training in it, I have to kind of stumble my way through, but I do figure it out time in and time out. So, all right, let's see here. Power LED front panel. It's kind of hard from, you know, where I'm standing to see everything. Again, working around a camera kind of makes it tough, but I see our red there for the speaker. Let's see. You know what? We're just going to rotate the case so I can see this better, just to avoid any potential mistakes. The key to doing this is having a good workspace so you can see what you're doing. There's nothing I don't like about working on these things, but when you're trying to do something with some, you know, relative precision, it's hard to be right when you can't see what you're doing, and my eyes are not what they used to be, unfortunately. Alright, so the hard drive is coated blue, and the positive should be the colored wire, so we should be able to plug this in just like so. There we are. And of course we've got USB and stuff in the way here. Cable management is not my forte, as you guys have probably seen, again, on the channel many times. All right, a reset switch. Oh. You know what, I get the power LED mixed up. Reset switch goes up here, or goes down there, and power LED goes on the bottom. Now, this one is not keyed, I can tell, but I'm pretty sure it's going to orient like that. The nice thing is when they're color coded, you can tell on the wires, you know, your negative's usually the white wire. And then the power switch. Well, this is interesting. Power switch here. I've got two of them. And this is the power LED. That's why. So we'll orient that way. And then our power switch. Should go in there. All right, and then our speaker. Let's make sure. Positive there. All right. So that should be everything with that. Now, you could use a tie-off. I prefer to just stuff things in the case. All right, so now we've got some USB connections to make. Front panel. And our multi-card reader. So let's see here, if I remember right. Should be. Doesn't really matter where it goes, it's going to get power either way. I like to keep them together. It's a little bit cleaner for you cable management people out there. And there we go. We are wired in, at least for the front panel components and what have you. Now I am going to just leave this back panel USB out of the machine. It's not really necessary, to be completely honest. And I don't have any intentions of really using that. So we're just going to leave that for now. I think at this point we're going to go ahead and lock in the processor. Now, just to see if the old one works, we're going to go ahead and stick with that for now. There's a little dust trap in there. Just checking the pins. I don't see any bent pins. Go ahead and drop that into place. Good deal. And then the back fan will be our next challenge here. And I'm noticing that that hasn't been cleaned yet. So we're going to have to clean this, and then we'll load it in the case. Okay, so I saved quite a bit of the boring stuff and did it off camera, but we've got the graphics card mounted. I did not put any thermal paste on the processor yet because I'm not sure if it's living or dead. So we're only going to test this to boot and then shut it off. If it boots, we're going to thermal paste this and we're going to, check out the processor specs. In the meantime, I'm going to Google the other options I have just to see if I've got one better than the other. I've got the new memory located in the low profile slots. Hard drive is in place, and I forgot that this has a hard drive cage. So when I pulled that, it was all full of dust. So I did re-dust everything. So hopefully I got all the bunnies out that ended up getting blown back on the board. But everything should be in its place. Less, of course, our power supply we'll have to put back in. And then I'll have to put the front panel back on, of course. And then we are set to test this for boot. So we will do that in, hopefully, a conclusion video. And then we'll go from there.